Welcome back to another episode of Offbeat Adventures. We are standing here once again on the grade of the former Grand Trunk Pacific Railway and later Canadian National Railways Graham Subdivision. We are just right at or just slightly west of the community of Graham, Ontario. The road in front of us here is a branch of Graham Road that goes into Graham Lake, where the little community is here. It's more of a sort of recreational community. Used to be a lot more here when the railway was running. So what we're going to be doing today is we are going to be picking up from a hike that we haven't yet done. Hopefully we're going to be doing it tomorrow. So we haven't done the section in front of us that passes in front of Graham and past Graham Station. But again, hopefully we'll be doing that tomorrow. So we'll be working our way about 8.5 miles to the west here, past Oscar Station, and where we'll be sort of ending up. It's been kind of, the sun's been kind of in and out all morning. It's kind of in right now, which is great because it really helps us with the lighting. Unfortunately, we're going to lose that because this cloud is going to pass and everything's going to kind of get washed out when that happens. It's been great without the sun. So before we go anywhere, just want to kind of make a little note about the so it is October. It's the first week in October. Today is the 4th of October. It's our first hike since the spring, since the end of May. We've been out on a number of exploratory hikes. We were actually just here last weekend doing a little bit of work. Now the crazy thing about today, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you a little video of myself. Let's put my bike back up here. I'm going to show you a little video of myself, which I don't normally do on these, but you'll see how I'm dressed. I actually have, can you see my shorts? I'm actually in shorts. It is crazy warm today. It is the, again, it's the 4th of October. It's, when I left the truck this morning at just before 8:30, it was 18 degrees already. Just absolutely melting. It's supposed to get even warmer today. So we might just actually die on this hike before we're finished. So we're gonna go take a look at a point of interest here. It's been super crazy warm this fall again, so just like last year, and very, very dry. There was actually, thankfully, there was a little bit of rain that came down here over the week, because we were here last weekend and it was dry, and you would drive and there was just clouds of dust coming up. It was actually quite crazy. There was supposed to be a little bit of rain this morning. There's rain to the west of us, but we've managed to hopefully avoid it so far. So what we have here is we actually have the pad for a, and I have to thank Randy for this information here. So there's a big pad, you see the tower there? So this would have been the pad for a telecommunications repeater station. And so basically, because the Graham subdivision was not signaled, and so they would have had to rely on radio communication. And so there was something like this at Raith, which is a station further to the east. And so again, there would have been a structure on top of this that would have serviced the railway. And again, you can see the tower that this building would have linked in with to provide the radio communication to the trains. So maybe what I'll do is, oh, you can actually see the steps. So here's the steps to come into the building. Maybe what we'll do is we'll flash you up a map so you can basically see this shown on the map. Okay, let's get rolling here. I'm gonna wait to put the dog in the trailer. We'll wait till we have a trestle coming up. We'll throw her in there. Okay, so before we go any further, let's do our usual history lesson. See if I remember it. Haven't talked about it since the springtime. So this line was constructed by Grand Trunk Pacific Railway between 1905 and 1908. It was going to be part of an attempt by the Grand Trunk Company, which was one of the oldest railway companies in Canada. The Grand Trunk Company got its start back in the 1850s. So they were attempting to build a second transcontinental railway across the country after the Canadian Pacific. Now, it was a long process to get this second transcontinental line going. There was a lot of discussion, there was a lot of back and forth between the Grand Trunk Company and the Canadian government, because the Grand Trunk Company, after seeing what the Canadian Pacific went through to build their line, they weren't really keen on basically financing the enterprise and basically building it all by themselves. So they were kind of looking for some assistance from the government. So again, after a lot of years of back and forth, they finally came up with an agreement with the Canadian government. So the plan is that the government and the Grand Trunk were going to build two separate parts of the railway line. So the Grand Trunk was going to build everything from Winnipeg to the east, from Winnipeg to Prince Rupert on the Pacific Ocean, under the name Grand Trunk Pacific. And then the Canadian government was going to build everything from Winnipeg east to New Brunswick under the name National Transcontinental. And once the two lines were completed, Grand Trunk, here we go, this is it for the shade here. The temperature might start to pop up here. So thank God there's a little bit of a breeze. So once the lines were completed, the Grand Trunk would operate the two lines. So again, this line was constructed between 1905 and 1908. So it was opened in November of 1908. Now, unfortunately, things came off the rails, pardon the pun, almost immediately. What ended up happening was, again, the Grand Trunk Company was supposed to operate the eastern portion, the NTR. And when the time came, they balked. And they basically backed out of the agreement because the building of the western portion, the Grand Trunk Pacific, had caused a lot of financial hardships in the company, and they didn't want any more problems. So what ended up happening now was this branch line, and again, the whole purpose of building this branch was to basically give the line, which ran way to the far north of Lake Superior, access to Lake Superior to basically move agricultural products like grain. And so the Grand Trunk Company backed out. So now the Canadian government was like, well, who's going to run this railway line? So what they did was they created their own company, and that became known as the Canadian Government Railways. So when that happened, the name of this line changed. It originally been the Lake Superior branch, or the Lake Superior division of Grand Trunk Pacific, and it became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian Government Railways. And so it was actually leased from, because it connected to the NTR portion, it was leased from Grand Trunk Pacific. So here you can see all the clear skies to the south. The wind is blowing this way. You can see all of the weather that we managed to avoid up to the north. You can see there looks like there's some thunderheads up there, right? So we kind of thankfully missed all of that. And so the line operated as part of the Canadian Government Railways until late 1918, when the Canadian Government Railways were merged, amalgamated, whatever descriptor that you want to use, with another bankrupt line, which was the Canadian Northern Railway. And so that amalgamation formed Canadian National Railways. And Canadian National Railways took effect in January of 1919. So the name of this line changed once again. It became the Fort William and Raith subdivisions of Canadian National Railways. And then shortly thereafter in October, the name changed again. It became the Lake Superior subdivision. Now, around that time, I'm going to hop off the bike here to kind of drag out the story. You can see we're passing through this nice little cutting area. You can see the jack pines here. Just an absolutely gorgeous day. Again, too bad we lost the clouds here, because that really would have helped diffuse the light a bit. Around that time, Canadian National began looking at rationalizing its railway lines coming west out of Thunder Bay, because they basically had two lines that for the first 30 miles had duplicated routes, and that was this line and then the Canadian National line, which had become the Kashabawi subdivision. And so eventually what they did was they made a decision to double the old Canadian Northern Line, because it had the best route out of west out of Thunder Bay, or Fort William at the time, to a place called Comrie Junction. There they would build a bridge across the Mattawan River, and then they would subsequently abandon about 28 miles of the eastern portion of this line. So the two lines, the Graham subdivision, the Kashibawi subdivision, would share trackage until Comrie Junction, and there they would split. The Kashibawi subdivision going off to Atikokan, and this line heading up on its original route to Sioux Lookout. So in 1923, in preparation for that, the name of this line changed once again. It became known as the Graham subdivision, which people know it as today. And then in the spring of 1924, the name changed again. It was split into two. It was split into the Crest and the Graham subdivision. And then in the spring of 1925, it was split once more. It was split into the Crest, the Raith, and the Quorn subdivision. Subsequently, the Crest subdivision was abandoned, and so the line was just the Raith and the Quorn subdivision, and it operated as that until 1931, when it reverted back to being called the Graham subdivision, and continued operating until 1994, when it was abandoned by CN. So we've reached our first point of interest here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause momentarily, and then we're going to work our way across this trestle. Okay, here we go. So this, not sure what to call this, because the trestle here crosses kind of the end of what is known as Rabbitswim Lake. And then there, the lake transitions into a river. So it transitions into the North Firesteel River. I'm going to call it the Rabbitswim Trestle, just simply because it is kind of attached to Rabbitswim Lake. You can actually see what they've done is they've built this trestle, and they've built, you'll see they've built a causeway as well to basically fill this in. So the trestle here is about 130 feet long. It's 5 feet high. It's not particularly high above the level of the lake here. And so let's make our way across. So you can see that there once was most likely a catwalk here on the south side, evidenced by the railing. It is a ballasted deck trestle. So basically it didn't have the separated ties. Basically the timbers, basically the ties sat right on top of this deck here, which was filled with ballast. Okay, you can see Rabbitswim Lake here. Again, you can see the weather that's off to our to the west and the northwest here. And so you can see here a piece of the railing has been knocked out somehow, some way. Not sure quite how. There is no milepost marker, I don't think. I didn't see one. And so here we've reached the end of the trestle. So what we're going to do is we're going to hop down and go take a look at it. All right, so we've worked our way down here on the north side of the trestle. You can see that it's a little bit unusual because it does have the concrete capped bents. So instead of having the timbers, it does have a concrete beam on top. There are 8 bents. You can see that, again, the trestle looks like it's in pretty good shape here. You can see the cross braces and stuff look like they're okay. So we're gonna jump the grade and go take a look at things on the south side. Okay, so here you can see the trestle from the south side. It's a little bit harder to get a good angle here because we have to kind of, the way that the lake and the river kind of loop around here. This is about as close as we can get. So you can see the bents, you can see the cross braces. Again, looks like it's in pretty decent shape, except for the missing piece of the railing there over on the west side. Now, if we head back in here, and don't poke my eye out, a couple neat little things here we passed on our way in. So here you can see there's a barrel. I'm guessing that's our good friend Creosote. And then You see a bucket, probably that's the one that the spikes came in. They used to come in wooden kegs, and here you can see somebody's put together a nice little collection of spikes. You can see they're the longer ones. Guessing to use on the bridge. There's actually quite a bit of them here. Okay, and there's washers and stuff. Okay, so let's hop back up on the grade and continue our westward march.